consequences of a hasty withdrawal. Now that U.S. troops are out of Afghanistan, what does the future hold for Israel and the Middle East? Well, joining us is Israel's representative at the United Nations, Ambassador Danny Danon. Ambassador Danon, it's good to talk with you again. So, an emboldened Taliban now in control in Afghanistan. What does that mean for Israel?
For us, when the U.S. is strong, Israel is strong. And when the perception is that the U.S. is getting weaker, we are weaker. Those pictures that we saw coming from Kabul are actually giving more strength to the radicals in Lebanon, to the radicals in Gaza, and to the radicals in Tehran. And I think the question is whether the new administration will now continue to negotiate with Tehran and will try to re-enter the agreement with Iran all over again.
And many other Islamic terrorist groups see that the most powerful military in the world was defeated and embarrassed by the enemy they fought against for 20 years. The Taliban's now in control. So how about the terrorist group on Israel's northern border? Let's talk about Hezbollah first. Do you expect them to make a move, or are they too weak financially and politically to attack Israel right now?
So the issue is the perception of strength and power. You know, I served as Deputy Minister of Defense, and I learned that it's not about the real strength you have, about the number of tanks or submarines. It's about the perception. And I think today the perception that the U.S. is weaker, and those people sitting in Beirut, the heads of Hezbollah, they know that we will retaliate, we will attack them. And I think they know it very seriously, so they will think twice before challenging the IDF. And also politically, they know that the people in Lebanon will blame them for the consequences. So I don't know what will happen. And also, you have to understand that the people in Hezbollah in Beirut don't decide. They get orders from Tehran. So the radicals in Tehran will decide when the next conflict will be here in the north.
Well, that's the big concern, is it not? What Iran is going to do. And I know your Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, recently met with President Biden at the White House, and Biden said he will not allow Iran to possess a nuclear weapon on his watch. But how can Israel trust his word on that, given that many of America's allies feel abandoned? They feel let down by the hasty withdrawal from Afghanistan. Can you depend on his word?
We have to trust ourselves. History has taught us that we have to be the ones securing our future and our well-being. And I think we have a reason to worry, because the new administration actually acknowledged that they are willing, they are eager to sign a deal with the administration in Tehran. I don't know why, but now the only reason that we don't have agreement is because the leadership in Tehran are not willing to negotiate with the U.S. I hope it will stay that situation, because the last thing we want is another bad agreement that will allow Iran to become nuclear, allow them to send their proxies weapons and funding. We don't want to see it becoming a reality.
Many Americans believe Israel may be forced to act alone against Iranian nuclear weapons. Prime Minister Bennett suggested that Israel will take steps against the Islamic Republic, a little bit at a time. So how could you stop them without U.S. military backing and support? Don't you need that?
We have the capability to defend ourselves, and if we will have no choice, we will do it ourselves. We did it in the past. I want to remind you when we destroyed the nuclear reactor in Iraq, the nuclear reactor in Syria. We hope it will not be the case that it will be only Israel against the radicals of Iran. But if nothing will stop them, we will be there to stop them.
And in Israel, Defense Secretary Benny Gantz recently met with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, and he made offers of financial assistance to the PA. So what and who's behind that offer? So
we have some kind of a dialogue with the PA. You know, when we were in government, we made sure that it will not be in the highest levels, because we have to remember that President Abbas still supports terrorism. They pay salaries to convicted terrorists, and I don't think he deserves the respect he got from Minister Gantz. That's the decision of the new government here in Israel, and I think we should coordinate few things with the PA, but we should not give the respect to Abbas while he supports terrorism.
Do you think this is designed to kind of negate Hamas and kind of get them out of the picture and get more Palestinians to support the PA, or what's behind that?
No, I think, there are issues to coordinate with the PA. Maybe there were pressure coming from the new administration. One cannot ignore that the meeting between the defense minister and Abbas took place a few hours after Prime Minister Netanyahu came back from Washington. And I'm sure this issue was also brought up in the discussions between President Biden and Prime Minister Bennett.
So do you think it helps or weakens Israel negotiating with the PA?
I don't think you should negotiate directly with the president of the PA. I think you should not give them the legitimacy. We should demand them to stop sponsoring terrorism. And if we need to coordinate a few issues, we know we have professionals on the ground who can do that.
Well, we know the high holy days are coming on shortly in Israel, and all of our viewers will be praying for you and praying for Israel. And we always pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Ambassador Danny Danon, Israel's representative to the United Nations, thank you for sharing your time and your insights with us. Shalom.
Shalom, shalom.